Hey, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of House Calls, the podcast. Tonight, I am talking to two of my favorite people. This guy, Dr. Ty House, and my friend, yoga instructor and triathlete, mental health coach, Allison Woodward. Ty, I think you're going to get a lot out of this, and hopefully it'll help you with your yoga and your mental health because you need help in both.
I'm excited about this. I'm excited to hear about all the history of the Ironman. I'm very interested in, did she get into yoga as a recovery tool? Like, did the Ironman come first and as she got older, she had to do the yoga? I'm assuming she's our age. I'm interested in seeing how, as she's aged, she's still being able to compete at that level.
And not only does she compete, she wins her age group. To do that, to qualify for the Ironman World Championships, she raced in Oceanside, California back in early April and did really well there. So she will get to go Ironman World Championships, which she had just done in October in France. So she's got another one coming up. So yeah, she's got a lot of great stories.
I'm excited. I guess she's about to sign on. And what I'm really excited about is I think we finally have dialed in the technology. You know, we're not running through the issues that we were doing before. So literally all you have to do is let her in and we can start. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, she's going to be so excited that there were no technological issues and she didn't have to stay up late to do this. But yeah, so sit back, enjoy this one. Remember, we are on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, and enjoy our conversation with Allison Woodward. Thanks.
And please comment and share if you like it so we can get the message out there.
And if you don't like it, we will block you. Thank you.
See ya.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of House Calls, the podcast. Today, I am talking to two of my favorite people in the world. And I was thinking about this earlier. I probably talk to each one of you daily in some way or another. I have to talk to Ty due to a court order. That's the only reason. It's been 40 years and don't do the crime if you can't do the time. And then Allison, I also feel like that's a prison sentence. Allison is my yoga instructor, my friend, my running companion, my spin instructor, and just all around fitness guru. So I'm excited to talk to you both and have you guys meet each other. And then you can tell everyone all the wonderful things you want to about me.
So I have never met Allison before. I was amazed at how calm she stayed as she and I helped you through the technical difficulties behind the scene where you couldn't get your audio going. You couldn't get your microphone going. Once you got your audio going, your microphone wasn't going. I literally had time to learn sign language in the time that you were doing all this.
So did I. So, there you go.
But Allison stayed calm. She walked you through it. And now we're recording a podcast. This is exciting.
She's a steady influence in my life.
Yeah. She must be a saint.
She really is. Okay. She really is. So Allison, this is Ty, and he's a reason for a lot of my issues. But it's amazing. I'm excited to get you both here. I'm excited to kind of talk about you both. And I think the first thing I want to say to anybody that's listening is we're going to talk a lot about working out, and Allison is a beast, and I say that with love and affection. And I just want everyone to know that we're not saying anything that people need to work out like Allison or Ty or myself. We just like people to be active, and whatever that means to you, that's fine. But amongst the many things that Allison is, she does talk. I've heard her talk. This is the longest I've ever seen her go without talking because Ty and I won't let her get a word in edgewise, and it's kind of fun. But she is as you can tell, I don't know if you can tell by her visor, she has competed in the Ironman World Championships, and she just competed in Oceanside in California. She won her age group, and she is just a monster. But she's also got this great other side to her that's very compassionate and helping, and she's just an all-around good person. So I'm excited for you guys to talk. So I'm going to shut up for a second.
I was going to say, not letting anybody say anything. Thank you for saying those things. But the hardest job is to be next to you on the yoga mat. Well,
I don't wish that on anybody. Ty did it once, I think, and that was it for him too.
That wasn't in our studio, though.
No.
So I kind of want to get the background here. What came first, the yoga, the Ironman? Like, what was your sports background growing up?
So honestly, I wish the yoga had come first because things probably would have been a lot better. But no, I was an athlete growing up. We had lost my dad when my mom was pretty young. She was only 42. I was only 7. And I think it was a great way for my mom to get me taken care of. She put me in every single sport possible. And so I was just going from one sport to the next. Summer is same thing, swimming, tennis, everything. And I fell in love with it. It was kind of my way of dealing with a lot of things that were happening at that time as well, which continues to be my life now. But so then I played 3 sports in high school and 2 in college. And then I got done with college and I was like, oh my God, now I got to like figure out what I'm going to do. Where am I going to find my people? Because I think one of the things, and I have 4 kids that play sports, it's like you get done with all that, whether it's high school or college, it doesn't really matter, but you didn't have to really make friends because they were all there, you know. So I started kind of obsessively running. I have a little bit of addictive personality. What? And I realized just a little. Huh. I guess addicts reach out to addicts, right? But so I found that running was just getting too obsessive. So that's why I started the triathlons, because then I could focus on a couple.
So Al, what do you mean by too obsessive?
Like I would get a time that was pretty good and then I'd want to get a better time. And
right.
And running, it's like, you know, you can get a 17-minute 5K, but to get a 16:58 is a lot harder. So
and you have to be Ethiopian, I believe, or Kenyan.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something that the whole thing about leaving school and no longer having that team, which I do think for anybody who we talk to who's young, I think sometimes these kids who grow up playing sports their whole life and then they get to college and don't play college sports, or the kid who plays in college and then gets out into the real world, it's something we need to tell people. You know, you need to prepare yourself because you've had a team your whole life. You're going to be out on your own. And so your story is interesting, like how you build community and all those kind of things. But I think it's relevant to all of us, and it sneaks up on you. I think you don't realize whether you're the college kid or the post-college kid.
Because I think you don't see it happening while you're in it. You don't realize like, oh, I really didn't have to make a lot of efforts to make friends because they were all kind of chosen for me. And fortunately, it was such a fortunate situation. But then when I agree with you, college, it's hard because you're thrown into a boatload of people. You don't know anyone. And then you get out in the real world where you're thrown into careers where you're making new, you know, friendships and relationships with people you don't know. So it just became such a driving force for me to become a part of another community and find the people that I wanted to hang out with. You know, I think that's a struggle in your 20s.
Absolutely.
So what kind of running were you doing? Were you doing, like you mentioned, the 5K times? Were you doing 10Ks and marathons and everything, or were you doing short and fast?
5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons. And I also was getting bored with it. It was, you know, I was doing well, but I was also like, okay, so I had always swam, and I did my first triathlon. It was actually the Baltimore Triathlon. I think it was the last year they held it in 1990. And
I did that one.
Oh, you did?
Bud Light Triathlon. Yeah. That was the coolest thing ever, taking the bike down the JFX.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was dumping rain, and my mom came to that one race and never came to another one because she thought I was going to die in that one race. Because everybody was slipping and sliding coming into Baltimore, and but I was hooked. I loved it. Then I had 3 things that I could focus on, and then I was meeting 3 different groups of people. So it was a healthier way to go for me.
So comment on triathlons, because I've done a couple of them. They were years ago, but when I did it with a big group. I did it with 2 brother-in-laws. I've done them with my cousins. I did them with my dad. And the one thing I found out was people who grew up swimming, like you said, you grew up swimming, it's so much easier for those people because swimming a long distance, like a mile, is not tough for somebody who grew up swimming all the time. But for somebody who's never grown up swimming, they literally have to spend the majority of their training to swim a mile versus if you're a swimmer, you can really just pop in and swim a mile. If you have an efficient stroke, it's a pretty easy thing to do. And so whenever I talk to people about the difficulty of doing a triathlon, their swim background makes all the difference in the world.
It's huge. But I will say a side note of that is the open water is the key.
Yeah.
Because you could be comfortable looking at the bottom of the pool and looking at a line, but then you throw somebody in a body of water where they have no idea what's underneath of them, or maybe they can see
or behind them.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell that story, but
okay.
Or you can, I don't care. But I do think it's a huge advantage. My trading partner who wasn't able to come on tonight, but we were going to talk with her as well. She didn't know how to swim, and she, took lessons and learned. So I think you're right. I think that's the hardest one because it does come with a lot of anxiety. You can fall on the bike, but you could drown in the water, which is a real fear for a lot of people. So I felt that was an advantage for sure.
Yeah. So
when I was doing those triathlons, Matt, I got to tell you a funny story. But so I was a pretty good swimmer. And
don't worry, I'm Googling his time to see if I beat him in that triathlon.
Yeah, I'm sure you did, but I was a pretty good swimmer, and my cousin Stacy was in my age group, and we were joking around. I'm in I think the second year I did it, I used the wetsuit and was so much faster because you floated. The first year I just wore like a regular bathing suit.
You did not. You wore a Speedo. I've seen pictures, and you still wear it.
I came out of the water like pretty good, and then my what I tell people is my bike was just like a standard road bike. I literally got past the entire bike. Like I didn't pass one person. It was like the professional guys were passing me, then the super fit women were passing me. But by the end, the old lady was passing me on like the super souped up bike. And I was like, if I ever do one of these again, I'm getting a better bike.
She had a bell. She had a bell and a flag, and she went ding, 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 pass you. Yeah. I remember that. She had.
And my brother-in-law did it with like a mountain bike, like almost. It was crazy. Like he had a basket on the front of his bike.
And that's what I loved about triathlons in the beginning. It's a little different now, but it was just a variety of different people. They'd show up and you'd think, oh my God, how are they ever going to finish this race? And they did. And the old school racing was so much fun. It's changed a lot. It's who has enough money to buy the best gear and and now the races are, it's $600-$700 to get into a full Ironman, $300-$400 to get in a half. It's crazy. I love racing, but I'm a little bit of like, I don't want to do too many because it's changed a lot, but I've also gotten older. So it's probably just me.
How did you go from Olympic style triathlons all the way up to Ironman? Like, how did that jump happen? And to clarify for people who don't know, because there's like mini triathlons where you swim 100 yards and you bike 5 miles and you run 100 yards or whatever.
That's
but
called Saturday.
The one we're talking about is the miles. It's the mile swim, the 25-mile bike, and the 10K, right?
Well,
is that
so
Olympic?
a half Iron. Oh, Olympic.
No, for an Olympic triathlon, and then we'll get into Ironman.
Okay, Olympic is mile swim, 26-mile bike, and a 10K run.
Yeah.
I haven't done one in a long. I hope I said that right. Then a half Ironman is a 1.2 and 56-mile bike and a 13-mile run. And then I think I said the swim wrong for Olympic because I don't think it's quite a mile. But the Ironman is 2.5 mile swim, 112 bike, and a marathon, 26 mile. So. Okay. Yeah.
And Allison, so how many Ironman have you done? I know.
8 or 9. I don't know. I don't keep track.
Right.
And how did you make the jump to the Ironman? And was the Ironman after many years of doing regular triathlons, or?
So Ty, I don't know how old you are, but when I was
78,
I'm 56.
56. Oh. Okay. So you were probably in elementary school, but I was in middle school, and watching the Ironman on TV was, I was like, I'm doing this one day. My brother's like, right. I was like, no.
And Allison, do you like that when people say, right?
When people,
do you like that?
That's how I qualified for Hawaii. Someone told me I'd never do that. Okay, sure.
And what do you have to do to qualify for Hawaii?
So to qualify, you have to come into the top tier of your age group. So they give out slots in each age group. And typically it's first or second in your age group to qualify for world championship. So,
Okay.
So yeah, so it's a big jump, but I like being out there for a long period of time. And I realized that the difference between Olympic and a half Ironman for me was that I had to go as hard as I could go for a shorter period of time. And I was better at going harder for a longer period of time, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I, felt like I did better at that distance. And I love the training for it. I like being on my bike 3 hours on the weekends. It's, a little bit more time consuming, but I like that. So
what does the training look like for the swim, the bike, the run in a typical week? Like as you lead up to
Ty,
an
I'm going to
event?
put my head down. If you just call me when you want me to talk,
I
or
am
get
fascinated
involved
by
at all,
this.
that'd be
And
great.
honestly, the
Okay,
reason I'm
great.
asking the questions is because you remember the last time we went road biking and you literally fell over at a stop. We stopped. You couldn't unclip your pedals and you fell all the way on. I was mortified. It was embarrassing. People were driving by. It was awful.
It was. I was mortified. I didn't know people were going to let you and I out on the roads like that. I was
did you
shocked.
fall into traffic or out of traffic?
He fell away from traffic.
Away.
Oh,
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me that story? I thought you shared everything with me.
I thought I had. Anyhow.
And Allison, he's done it twice because he did it with my cousins, I believe, also.
Damn it. You weren't supposed to say that part.
Did you get training wheels?
I got training wheels and I've never gotten that phone call invite again. So talk to Ty about training. So
right now I'm doing a race in I guess on June 6th. I'm doing no, it's June 8th. I don't even know the dates. It's Eagleman in Cambridge, Maryland. So we're like 3 weeks out to the race. And so typical is you're doing 3 days.
And I'm sorry, Al, what's the distance?
That's a half Ironman.
Half
Ironman.
Yep.
So typically it's 3 days a week of about 2,400 in swimming. So you do that 3 times a week. And then there's usually a long bike and a long run on the weekend, which would be about 3 hours for the long bike, followed by a 30-minute run, and then a 3-hour bike ride.
Are you doing your training swim in open water or just going to a local pool?
To the local pool. Probably try to get an outdoor swim in the next week or two. But yeah, so.
Okay.
So it's interesting. So the triathlons, it's very solitary, right? Yoga is very solitary. But I think watching you build community, I think having a training partner like Megan, the community you've built at the yoga studio, how important is that to help you keep going, to want to keep, training and keep moving forward?
Yeah, I think I hope that it's inspiring other people to see, and I'm not saying an Ironman or triathlon at all, or maybe it's just to go out there and get involved in something a little different.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of my thing that I talk about a lot in the gym is trying to expand, like being open just to try new things and just be open to put yourself out there. And I think I try through my teaching to get people to build confidence in themselves to do things. Cause I would say my classes are a little bit more on the harder side. So I try to build that confidence through challenging people in the class in a way that, if you can do this, it's great. If you can't, it doesn't matter. But usually for most people, when they can achieve something that they don't think they can, they're building the confidence. So that's for me, having that community of people is so important. We lost a lot of it in COVID, and that was one of my big priorities. And I feel like we're almost back to capacity in our gym that we were before COVID. But that was one of my main goals. I obviously don't do this for the money. I'm very passionate about it. And I feel like now we're getting into this buzzword of longevity health, like getting people I'm aging with people that are there. And
you're aging, but you still have the energy of a young, very young lady.
Well, I'm hoping through my experience of being older and being able, so if I'm 60 years old and a 25-year-old is taking my class, I'm hoping that's inspiring them to say, this is what I can keep doing. If I keep doing this, this is what I can keep doing, so to say. So I hope it works.
Did you get into yoga because it was a recovery tool for the Ironman, for the running, the biking, the swimming, or was that a totally separate entrance?
So true story, funny story, embarrassing story. One of my best friends, Missy Lala, who comes to a lot of my classes at the gym now, said, I want to take you to my yoga class. I'm like, okay, maybe next week. And I kept putting her off because I didn't think that it was going to be hard enough. Just to be honest, I went in, I took this hot power yoga similar to what I teach. The instructor kicked my ass, the class kicked my ass, and I was hooked. As soon as I left there, I was like, because I had found something that was harder than what I was doing. And I love that kind of, I want to do things that are hard. And so I fell in love with it. And I also simultaneously at the same time had started to have some issues with my feet. It was probably plantar fasciitis, don't know, self-diagnosed. But then I started committing myself that I was going to go 2 or 3 days a week. Well, about 2-3 months later, the guy came up to me and he said, have you ever thought about teaching this? And I was like, yeah, maybe. So I've not ever had a foot issue since then. My balance is phenomenal, I would say, because there's been several times I almost crashed on my bike, not because I didn't clip out, but maybe it was a deer right in front of me. No, just kidding. But I got instantly hooked, and I thought, and this was when I turned 40. I thought if I would have had this as an athlete earlier, because everything it does in these classes, helps you in whether it is longevity health or your sport, whatever, it's helpful. So I wish I had done it earlier.
You mentioned you wish you'd done it early, and I wish I had done it earlier also. And I don't have anything to back this up. I think if you do yoga, especially your hip flexibility, you increase your speed. So like a high school athlete or a college athlete, I think they should really consider doing yoga, not just for injury prevention and recovery, but I think there could be speed benefits. What do you guys think?
I agree. I think that the one thing, and I talk to this a lot in class, is, and you're a doctor, I shouldn't talk around a doctor like this, but
no, you should.
Oh, he's not a real doctor. Oh, like Sue Ford. Yeah. She is a real doctor. So I feel like we talk about our muscles often, but it's really the ligaments and tendons around our joints, I think, that help with our overall health and to maintain the level that we do the things that we do. And I think that yoga really works those ligaments and tendons and the balance. And I 100% agree with you, and I have no facts to back that up other than just what I feel and what I see in the gym. I mean, these people in my classes are amazingly strong.
Al, it kind of goes back to what you were saying when you, if you watch a marathon, or if you just happen to be watching people that are running, you see all shapes and sizes, and they're doing really, really well. And it's the same in yoga class. You'll see people come in there and you're like, oh, this is going to be awkward for that person. And they are so strong and so flexible. And there's so many different parts of yoga to get out of it, besides the strength, the stability, the balance. But there's also just the challenge.
Right.
There's so much things in the community, plus what you get out of it. It's hard for me to put into words, but it's more than just an athletic pursuit.
Well, and I think also you're in a room with people who are struggling in the same way you are physically. And so mentally it helps you get through it, because, we're constantly saying in yoga to sit with the hard, and that's real life, Nobody escapes this world without hard stuff in their life. And, if you can sit with that hard and get through that hard, but then on top of that, you're with all these people who are having the same, it's not easy for anybody, so, and that's how real life is too, so I agree. I mean, I think the community, the actual workout, what you're actually doing in the workout, but what you're actually having to feel while you're in the workout is such a key component of it.
Absolutely. And I think for me, the mental part is the hardest.
Yeah.
It is for me, and especially lately, I've got a lot going on, and having a real tough time locking in. But when I do, I feel so much better. It's just like, ooh, that's a win. I got that. It's more about that than doing, whatever move, the one-handed handstands I like to do, that I do all the time. And Ty, I'll teach those to you at some point. But
do you feel like you're more injury resistant, like as you're aging? When you added yoga, are you more injury resistant than maybe in your 40s when you were younger?
I think I'm better. I haven't had as many injuries lately as I did maybe in the 40s. And I do feel like I still train at the same level. My a very good friend, Dave Bender, is a PT at Coppermine, and he's been working with me for like 25 years, helping me. If I get something comes up, I try to get it before it becomes a problem. And he says to me, like, as you get older, you just have to be a lot smarter about how you train. But he says he's worried when I stop working out, because I do think, and again, I'm not a doctor, but I do feel like once we stop being in motion, that's when things can start to hurt. And what I've noticed the most in the last couple, as I'm getting to 60, is that I might wake up in the morning and something might hurt a little bit, but as I move throughout the day, I don't feel that anymore. Some days I might wake up and my back might hurt, but 2 days later, my back doesn't hurt anymore. I'm not really sure what that is, but I realized to myself that I just got to keep moving. And I think there's a lot of people who stop when they feel that, because, whether they're scared or they think, oh, this is it. I'm going to be 60. So my joints are going to hurt. I got to stop. I mean, sometimes when I run, it's not comfortable for 10, 15 minutes. But then once I push through that, and I think that's an important thing, because I do think a lot of people quit because it's hard. And sometimes just pushing through a little bit of that. I mean, obviously not through injury that's pain or that you're going to hurt yourself. But I don't know. I think as we age, we do have pain. And so it's harder.
Public service announcement, but the injuries from inactivity are way worse than the injuries from activity. And I would bet at your age, there's probably people who, when they hear you're doing Ironman, they probably start trying to warn you without any background knowledge and say, oh, you're going to run your knees out, or you're going to run your hips out, or you're going to wear yourself down. And I just had a patient tell me the other day, and he said he was quoting Harrison Ford. I didn't check it, where he said, it's not the age, it's the mileage, meaning like, don't use your body up. But that's not true. The body is meant to be in motion. It's meant to be strong. It's meant to be flexible, all those things. And yes, injuries can happen in any sport, and you can probably wear yourself down doing sports, but the injuries from sitting on your couch and not doing anything are way worse than anything you're going to do an Ironman. And it's just an interesting thing. But did you have people kind of act like they knew more than you and kind of warn you and say, hey, you shouldn't be doing that anymore?
I've had a lot of naysayers in my life. And I sometimes think, they're trying to be helpful. I think that. I think sometimes people don't understand what you do. They hear it and they think it's crazy. So then they speak to the crazy, as opposed to understanding. As when you train for an Ironman, you take 4 to 6 months. It's not like you go out and you do all this training in a month and then you prepare. It's just like any test or anything you do, you take the time that you need to prepare your body. So I've had people try to tell me, oh, you probably don't eat. You probably, like, they say silly things. I don't get affected by that, and I don't speak back to them, because that's on them, what they want to think. For me, it works. I wouldn't, like Matt said in the beginning, I wouldn't recommend it for everybody. And I do probably think people think I'm a little crazy. When I first did my first Ironman, I came back to Baltimore, and a guy I knew said to me, why are you still doing these races? You've been doing these for a long time. But I had just done my first Ironman. And I said, well, I really want to qualify for Hawaii. I've been doing the Ironmans. I've been doing the triathlons for a while. I think I'm ready for that next level. And he said, are you kidding? You're never going to qualify for Hawaii. And I was like, A year later, I did the next one, and I qualified it. And I did want to call him and tell him, But I personally just would never do that to anybody. You know, I would never tell somebody they can't do something, you know.
Allison, I've just met you, but you sound a little bit like Michael Jordan when every single slight he like takes it to heart, and he's like, "How dare you cut me from the varsity basketball team as a sophomore?" They never mentioned he was scoring like 50 a game on JV, and that's why they wanted him JV for the year. He used that to drive him forever, and you just seem to have that competitive spirit where you just say,
"You don't know what you've done to me."
I feel like if I just say, "Hey, Allison, I heard you're not." Matt said you weren't as good at yoga as he was. Then you're going to be going crazy tomorrow.
7:15 tomorrow morning. See who's going to kick my ass because of that one. Thanks, Tiger. Real appreciate that. God, you're such a jerk.
Sorry. Can I go to another question? I want to hear about the nutrition to fuel yourself through all this stuff.
Okay, well, yeah, you can. She eats Twizzlers and gummy bears all the time. That's it. Allison, so talking about the training and talk about the work, it's not your full-time job, but you put a lot of time into it. Family training balance, that's got to be a tough thing to manage. And your job. I mean, you have a job. You're not just a triathlete.
Right. Yeah, Matt, you could speak to this. I feel like I'm a creative person. So when it comes to training, I'm a big planner. So I would look at my schedule I have 4 kids, and they were 5 years apart, so really close together in age. They all played sports. We'd have a weekend of 20 games, and I'm not exaggerating. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of games. And it would end up being like 20 games. And I coached like 7 of them. And so I'd ride my bike out to the field. So if we played 30 miles away, I'd ride my bike to the field. I'd get up at 4 a.m. I hope my kids look back and say, Mom didn't train and not be there for us. I tried to be there for every single thing. And I'm super disciplined, which is really hard sometimes. But, you know, like I couldn't go to the pool later today. So I got up at 4:30 and went this morning, and I just organized my day so I can do what I need to do. And I've been very lucky. I haven't had to miss too many workouts for work or family because I've made it that it didn't interfere.
Right. And that's, I know a lot of your stories, but one that I always love is you guys had a house at the beach, and it was a little cul-de-sac. And didn't you like leave the kids, not leave, but put them on the front porch, and you just literally ran loops around this circle that was maybe a quarter mile?
Well, that's right. Was that my house got flooded and I had to move to the beach for the summer.
Okay.
And so it sounded lovely. Oh, you get to go to the beach for the summer. But I had 4 babies, 7, 6, 5, and 3. And so finding a beach house when your house floods in June is not the easiest thing. So every 2 to 3 weeks we'd pick up and we'd move to a new place. And my husband was home dealing with the house and his job. And so we got to the end of the summer and I was like, I made it. I can't believe I did this. Like every 2 weeks I'd move these 4 kids to another beach house. And we were in Bethany, and I would put out their cereal and I put out the milk, and I'd go out in front, and there was a mile loop out in front of the house that was, I'd say,
that's great.
When you get up in the morning, look for mommy running on the outside.
We'll see you again in 8 minutes. Bye. See you in 8 minutes.
So have you gone through this journey? Have you had to dial in your nutrition, and did you have to change it as you got older at all to fuel yourself through all this stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I've been a huge carb freak my whole entire life. And so that's been great. That's always worked for me because you can't, a big thing. And now nobody wants to eat any carbs or any sugar. Luckily I can do that, but I'm pretty clean in what I eat. But I've changed. I've gone through different periods of things just because of my job, because my job's so physical, that like, I was like, I can't eat breakfast. So it would make me sick. And now I try to eat every like 2 hours now. So I have things at work that I eat, and a lot of it's, yogurt, oatmeal, cottage cheese, fruit. And I graze that throughout the whole entire day. And then in the evening, I just eat a huge salad and protein. But I try to eat constantly because when you're training this much, it's hard to keep up. So if you get into a point where you're just going to eat the wrong things if you don't eat regularly, you're going to get starving and grab that bag of pretzels or chips or whatever. But but I'm pretty clean in what I eat, and I'm pretty disciplined in that area too. So, but I always have been. It hasn't been too hard for me. I like to eat that way.
And I think it's worth mentioning your kids, lacrosse players all the way through. You have one still in college, one coaching and playing in the PLL, Professional Lacrosse League. I don't know if you knew what that was. Ty's our in-house lacrosse expert. I had to keep him up. And one that's studying to get into med school. So, I mean, there's that discipline that you and Rob have instilled in your family carries across a lot of different areas. And it's great to see you practice what you preach, I guess is the point.
It makes me feel good. So I think it makes them feel good too, because I see it in them. I think they like getting up early. They have goals to work for. I think they like that. Shouldn't speak for them, but I see how they're passionate about what they do, and they loved going to school and high school, college, everything. So hopefully I hope, my son says I'm his motivator. I'm his role model. So hopefully that works.
I think it does.
They might not tell me that till I'm on my deathbed.
They'll tell you on Mother's Day on Sunday, and then they'll forget.
With your kids, but also with your coaching, did you ever try to coach Lifetime Fitness, or did you just try to demonstrate it?
I think just demo it. I coached mainly lacrosse out of college. I played field hockey and lacrosse in college. I coached both field hockey and lacrosse my first 10 years. And then I started just focusing on lacrosse because my kids all played soccer. So I didn't really know soccer. They'd always be like, Al, can you come over and do the running part? I was like, okay. But I think I just instilled that. They all knew that I did races. And they always wanted to ask me about that. And so I just spoke to what I did. And I hope that inspired them in different ways. You never know what your mark is until later, right? They don't always tell you. So,
right. So as you said earlier about staying in the hard, the good times and bad times, how does working out, how does training, how does achieving goals help you on your day to day? These goals that you do are, as you said, take 6 months to train for. How does that help you day by day, being able to train and kind of get out there?
I just don't think I'm complete unless I have a plan and I finish it.
Right.
I was raised, again, my mom was a widow. And so I'd wake up in the morning and she'd have 15 tasks before we could leave the house. I'm not kidding. It was vacuum that, I still have the list because she had them when we cleaned her room out. And, so I think I've just been programmed to, you wake up in the morning and you do what you need to do. And it makes me feel good. I like to do that. I like to, I guess I'm a taskmaster, so to say, but that's what makes me feel good. But then my job makes me feel good when I see other people achieving what they want to achieve, and they come. And I'll never forget when I first started coaching at Lutherville Lacrosse, and I said to the head girl, I said, how do I know if I'm doing a good job? And she said, if they come back. And I think I've said this in class. And so when people keep coming back and I have the same people coming back, I feel like I'm doing the right thing because they wouldn't keep coming back, No,
it's a cult, Allison. I don't know if you know that. You're a cult leader. I don't know if you've figured that out yet.
I'm not making a ton of money, Matt.
But Ty, I love talking about Allison, even though she's right here. Is that she is very rigid, not rigid, but very disciplined and taskmaster. But she will also, at the same time, doesn't wear a watch, wears 2 different socks. She doesn't give a F about the socks that she wears, and wears these great outfits that I've told her before, she looks like a pimp from the 70s a lot of times. But it's just because that's just a different creative side. I think she's so programmed in so many ways that when you get a chance to kind of just kind of go with it, you can do that. Not a lot of people can play both sides like that, Allison, and it's pretty amazing to watch.
I don't care what people think.
That's true.
I don't wear a watch. Because I really don't care about the results, if that makes sense. I want to do well. And I think, again, I talk about my mom a lot, but she inspired me, just do the best you can each day. Just wake up and do your best. And so when I finish a race, I say to myself, I just did the best I could. So I don't need to go back and look at my times and my splits. And I don't wear a watch, so I really don't know my times or my splits. But it's true. I'm really, truly my own authentic person, and I'm very different. And I know it kind of freaks people out a little bit, but I mean, people constantly, like just the other day, do you know that you have 2 different socks on? I'm like, yeah, thanks. Like, I don't know why people care. Like, why does somebody care? But and that's another mark that I hope my kids, because I really hope they know that it's important just to be authentic and true to yourself, you know?
So do you ever read or listen to things about the flow state in sports? So like being in the zone where,
okay.
So it seems like people who love a certain sport or love a certain fitness routine, that's where they can escape, and their mind goes to something where it's just the run, it's just the yoga poses, and they don't have to think about the problems of life. And I tend to think that that's the sports that people gravitate to. So somebody who falls in love with yoga, it's because that's where they find flow, or somebody who falls in love with running, that's where they find flow. The interesting thing is you seem like maybe you find it in all physical activity, because you're pretty diverse in your activities.
I like movement.
Would you agree though that there's like a mental benefit where you're not worried about anything else besides the run or besides the bike? Is that, I'm trying to get into what's going on in your mind when you're doing it. I imagine you're not being like, I can't wait till it ends.
Ty, you do not want to get in there.
Yeah.
It's funny. I mean, I do. And I've had this last 3 years, it's been very tough. And so I found myself gravitating to it more because I do think it pulls me away from thinking of and probably dealing with it, in all honesty. But I gravitate to it to make me, because that's where I feel my best. And I actually wrote a paper about that. Like when, I think when my dad died, I think that was my escape to like the things that were happening at home and the worries at home. And I was the youngest of 4 siblings, and he died like traumatically. And so I think that was has always been my escape. And so it's not that I don't deal with things, because I do deal with things, but I feel best when I'm away from having my worries and my thoughts. And these last couple of years, I know I do drink, but I've not been drinking as much because I feel like this is so much better for me. And I don't know, it might not be, I might break down my body, but no, I definitely do. I would never tell anybody how many hours a day I work out, because I don't recommend it, but I do think it's my escape and my flow. I've never heard that term before. I need to get that book.
So another public service announcement, but I think like if somebody was listening to this, they might look at it and be like, well, that's crazy. I'm never going to do an Ironman. But really, that's not the thing. The thing is the scheduling and the discipline, that you don't have to do an Ironman. You can go for a walk every day for 30 minutes, do push-ups, do some yoga poses. And that's the lesson that people should be learning, is that it's the discipline and finding what you love to stay active. And then how far or extreme you want to take it is really just how much you love it.
Right. And I also think, and I was talking to a friend about this today, I also think that me using the physical to help me with the mental things that are happening, or the worries, the concerns of life, is the way I also organize things. I don't know if that makes sense. So if I'm worried about something and I go for a run, and I can work it out on that run. Whereas if I'm not doing that, I'm sitting worrying about it and not making a plan on how to solve it.
Right. Because as you said, yeah, totally. Because being in motion, you're doing something else. So you kind of escape from the issue, and your mind's elsewhere. And then all of a sudden it clicks on how to not fix, but handle that issue at hand, because you're thinking about the run, you're thinking about the yoga or whatever it is.
Do you ever have a time in the Ironman, especially like when you're trying to qualify or you're trying to get a good time, where maybe in the marathon point, you're like, what am I doing? I'm never doing this again. I'm in so much pain. And then once you're done, you're so proud of yourself. You're like, oh, that was so great. But do you ever have that moment where you're like, this is insane? Kind of like you hear about like when a woman has a baby and they say, I'm never doing that again. And then they see the cute baby and they're like, let's do it again.
Absolutely. So funny story. I did the Oceanside half Ironman on April 8th this year, just 2 months ago. And I was running and I was like, can I say bad words on this thing?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Okay. I was like, fuck this. I am never doing this again. People play pickleball and they look like they're having so much fun. I am doing pickleball the whole time. My brother's obsessed with pickleball. I'm like, he's got it. And he knows what he has so much fun. The whole rest of the last 5 miles, I'm like, I am done with this sport. I am going to sign up for pickleball. And here I am doing another race in June 8th. So yes.
Are you able to keep your times pretty consistent over the last 20 years? Like as you
actually, yeah, pretty good. It just, you can't really compare because the races are so different. Like this last one I did, it was 50 degrees outside. It was 57 degrees in the water. Like you can't, my swim time was actually okay. It was when I got out of the water and couldn't feel anything to get onto the bike, but you can't really I try not to do that because you can't really, because each race is a little different, like Lake Placid Ironman is so different from, Cozumel Ironman, which I've done, and Hawaii's different. And but they've been within the range. They've been where they should be, and they've continued to be there. So I feel fortunate in that aspect. So,
have you ever read the book Born to Run?
Yes.
So the reason I was going to bring it up is there was a part of that book, and I'm going to make up the numbers, but it's a rough estimate. I thought was fascinating is you take a marathon runner, like an elite marathon runner, their marathon time at 18 continues to get better and better until I think 32. And then it starts to get slower and slower, but it doesn't get back to 18 until you're like 72. So like endurance sports are very different than say lacrosse or football or basketball where it's amazing if you're still doing it at 40, but running is not like that. Like you can do running into your 50s, 60s, 70s, as long as you're healthy.
Right. No, I didn't know that. But I do feel like it's been pretty consistent, and especially like in my 50s, some of my times were better, which is crazy. But I think it went to the wisdom, the nutrition, better bike. So it's hard to compare even then because situations are different too, but it is fascinating to be able to keep doing it as I age. And I feel very blessed and grateful. And I hope I can keep doing it, So
now if you had to stop doing it, would you stop? Sorry, Matt, I'm sorry. This is fascinating. I have so many questions. Matt, your turn.
No. You go ahead. Just let me know.
You'll be part 2, Matt.
So, Allison, this is episode 24, and Matt and I are still trying to do our dynamic duo. We're still trying to figure it out.
It's going great.
It's going great. Going gangbusters. I mean, watch out, Joe Rogan and Smartlist. We're coming after him pretty soon. No, I just wanted to know how you think the Ravens are going to do this year. Go ahead, Ty.
The Ravens.
Exactly. No, but Ty's got, and he's right. I guess Ty's next question was going to be something about what would be the issue that made you stop? Injury or time? I mean, I don't think it would be time. I think you would do this until you couldn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess a life-threatening injury or something.
Right.
I don't want to think about that. But
no.
I don't see that happening unless I'm forced to, But,
I don't know. I feel like Al Roker is going to be there, and they're like, well, here comes Allison Woodward.
I have thought about it because it's not something someone like me worries about an injury or I remember talking to somebody and they said, what would happen to you if you couldn't do these races? And I was like, I would still try to do it, even if something like if I lost a leg, I'd figure that out. And,
I would wonder if there's people, and I don't know if on the race circuit, if you see people 10 years, 20 years older than you, but I would think that maybe you would go from half Ironman down to Olympic size, and then maybe masters swimming, whatever. It just seems like you'd still be doing those events, but there's there's got to be people out there that are 10, 15 years older than you still doing it, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. When
Jesus,
I go
they
to
are old.
Yeah, they are old.
And another
when I go to
PSA
races-
is it's a myth that running's bad for your knees. If your knees are healthy, you're not post ACL or MCL, you have your menisci, all that kind of stuff. There's no evidence that running's bad for your knees.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that, Matt?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope, and like I said, I'm inspired. Like when I go to races, there are still people, not many, but still people in the 70 age group doing some of these. And I have done not a lot, but I've done a couple Ironmans this year. And that's not, usually I do one every 2 to 3 years because of this, that I want to be able to, I like the half Ironman distance better. It's easier to train. It definitely doesn't ever interfere with what I do. But I mean, I'll just do what I have to do. That's what
I'll tell you. I think I can speak for everybody in your yoga studios and in your world. You are very inspirational with your training, but the worst part is the tapering week for the rest of us, because she's got even more energy and she walks around, and next thing you know, you're holding poses because she's talking for like 5 minutes. You're like, come on, let's keep moving. And tapering week is the worst. That's for me in the triathlons is her tapering week. That's
June 1st. So
I know.
Are you away?
I know. Oh, I will be. The great part is that I know you don't look your times, but I will spend, April 8th or whenever it is, I watch your times and Megan's, and to see, checking in on you guys. And it's totally inspirational. And it is totally
Do you guys
fun.
do all your training together or just your races
We
together?
try
How does that work?
we try to do a lot of it together. Because it's whether we're together or not, we know we're out there together. If that makes sense.
Yep.
So you're not meeting for the run necessarily, or meeting for
No,
the bike?
we are.
You
No,
are.
we
Okay.
are. But we might not, like if she's having a good day, I might say, go, 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 because kind of golden rule when you train with someone is, you're training for the same race, but you might not have the same abilities on each day to train the same way. So we start off together. But just whether we're together, like side by side, we know we're out riding together or we're running together. And we most often stay together on the run. In the pool, obviously we're underwater, so it's not like we're, cheering each other on. But as things have kind of progressed in our lives, like we started, like we did every workout together. It's just gotten harder to organize. Her kids are younger and still in school, and I work and full time, and she does work but has a lot more flexibility. So now we've gotten to the point where like that schedule might not work for me. So we just realize that sometimes it's just too hard schedule wise. But that's good too, But
it goes back to that community thing.
Yeah.
We check
really
in
does.
with each other. I'm like, how'd you do? What did you do? You're still accountable.
No, it's all about that community thing, and it's motivating, right? Knowing that
we've been training together for several years now. We've done several. I mean, I can't like 15, 20 races together. So we've been doing it for a while. So I think in the beginning, it was kind of like, I can't imagine not training with you. But now it's gotten to the point where, her parents are older and she's taking care of her parents, and I was taking care of my mom. And so, you just kind of have to schedule around real life sometimes. So, but we both hope we keep doing this for a long time.
And the key part of that, if somebody who's listening, who's getting into fitness and they have a fitness partner, you don't want the day your fitness partner's sick or has to take off to be a day you don't work out. That's the danger, is if you're too attached to your partner and your partner goes away for a week, so you don't work out for a week, especially for that person who's trying to develop a routine, that the partner can be the greatest thing ever, as long as you keep going on the days that they can't make it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And really respect each other and what,
right.
And I have the utmost respect for Megan. She's a nurse. She's always my nurse. But she's super strong and she's very, very dependable and very disciplined, just like I am. So I think it works really well.
Oh, you guys are a great match. It's a great, it's a great friendship, and it's just a great match. And I'll edit all the nice things you just said out.
So Matt, we had discussed with our previous, we joked about doing like maybe our year end podcast where we do whatever the activity is with our previous guests. So we were going to do meditation, we were going to do yoga, we were going to do the golf thing, we were going to do the TRX thing. When we do the Ironman, are we doing like I do the swim, you do the bike, we share the run? How are you going to do the whole Ironman? I'm not sure how this works.
No. I think that's kind of showing off. I don't need to do it all. Okay. And you and I both burn, so I don't think we want to do the swim. So yeah, you run and then you bike, I'll run, and then I'll see you at the end.
So that is my main question. What was your favorite site to do an Ironman, like from a scenery point of view, and what was your worst site to do it?
Well, sorry, again, this is Allison. Sorry.
I would say, I don't know, because
I mean, Allison traveled the world to do Ironmans.
So
France, Hawaii.
I've done France. I've
Eastern
done Hawaii.
Shore. I mean, it's everywhere.
Eastern Shore. Yeah, but they're all Lake Placid, France, Cozumel. They've all been beautiful. I mean, absolutely breathtaking. I did one out in St. George, which like a little shout out to my nephew who's doing his second Ironman. He did his first Ironman and qualified for qualified for France, his first Ironman. So now he's doing his second this weekend.
See, and that's you. I mean, that's your inspiration.
Well,
it is. I mean,
take credit for that, but
I know you won't, but it is.
No, but so I've been to some amazing, and that's why I feel so blessed too, is that I'm racing. I mean, gosh, Lake Placid, it's gorgeous. I would say my favorite's probably Hawaii, just because of the tradition and always wanting to go there. Best course ever, hard course, but amazing people, amazing place to be. And that was my first qualifier that I did, and my whole family was there. Which after that, I was like, okay, that was $10,000. We're never doing that again. There's never been a bad.
Are there certain courses that are hillier, or where the open water swim is more open, so the tides are rougher? Is there anything like that? Or they try?
Yeah, so Lake Placid, I would say, is the easiest swim for me because it's you're in a lake. Yeah. Hawaii and France were hard. Super hard. There's a lot of current in those. Chop Tank's kind of a hard swim because of obviously the chop. They actually had to cut part of the swim course down in the Maryland Ironman because of the weather. So that can come into a factor too. Like that can change. They're really worried about the water now because they've had some issues in some of the races. But for the Ironmans and the half Ironmans, I can't imagine. There's not one course I wouldn't recommend. Some of the smaller ones, maybe, but they're the local, smaller races that don't have the beautiful countryside. But like even Cambridge is pretty.
Yeah. And flat.
You could do that bike ride.
Easily. So Allison, I know it's way past your bedtime now. And
I got to get up early, and you have technical difficulties.
I know. But I just want to say, thank you for your time. But, we always have some questions we like to ask.
Okay.
All right.
Can we repeat that Matt's the one who had the technical difficulties? I just wanted to clarify that.
Oh, okay. Matt did. Yep.
Yeah, Matt.
You guys forget that
Allison, we were perfect.
I know we were. We were.
You guys forget that I have complete editorial control over this. So, yeah. Okay.
Can I do the first question?
Do I have a choice?
Yes.
Jesus.
I want to know. I want to know what your
this again, and just a solo.
I want to know what your favorite hobby is where you're sitting still.
Oh God, mindless TV.
Okay,
there you go.
What's your go-to, like Seinfeld kind of mindless?
Well, I had to watch Love Island USA in order to be with your 20-year-old daughter. I will do anything to be with my children. Absolutely anything. And Love Island USA, had to watch that. And if you don't know what it is, look it up. It was torture. But mindless TV, at Netflix, anything. I don't care. Just I don't have to really.
Okay. Matt.
Okay. Oh, mine.
I'm going to let you talk because I got another question.
Jesus Christ. I mean, Allison, this is it. I mean, this is why I am, Allison's like, didn't you get enough attention?
How long have you known each other?
Since January. 40 plus years.
So I rescued Matt from a shelter when he was 14. He's a rescue friend.
His parents threw him in it.
Yeah.
Allison, someday I will tell you about the time he did rescue me from getting my ass kicked.
I absolutely believe that, because you borderline, you get to that point in yoga sometimes where you say something and I'm like, or you,
yeah. So that filter he now has, that's a recently acquired skill. It wasn't like that for the first 35 years of friendship.
Exactly. And interesting, it only started when I started doing yoga. Who knew? My whole life would have been different if I figured this out 40 years ago.
I don't know, because in yoga you're inappropriate too.
Oh, because
we have our own mats for a reason. Stay on your mat.
Allison and I are usually next to each other because I'm like the pupil that the teacher won't, like, don't go to the back because I know you're going to be a goofball. So I go up right next to Allison so I can try to concentrate, and it doesn't really work.
And if I tell the room to turn right, he turns left. So then he's facing right, and I turn, and his face is right there.
My face is right there.
Like, oh, great. Thanks.
It's the best. It's every time. I get the biggest kick out of that one.
It's funny every time.
It is. It never fails. Allison, you are going on a leisurely run, okay? Because I know you don't play golf for some reason. Yes, but let's say you're going to run with 3 other people, and you're hanging out and you're talking, you're stopping at water. Who are your people to run with?
Cricket.
Yep.
Megan.
Okay.
And that's usually who anybody I run with.
Well, I guess, you know what? So then let me put it to you this way. Thank you. Atta girl. That's all I wanted. No. But, I guess we usually ask people, like, who do they want to play golf with, or who would they like to have a meal with? Any person, living, dead, anybody. So it's you and 4 people to have dinner with.
Oh, you like make famous people?
Yeah. Or no, anybody.
Fictional, famous, historical. Like, if you could sit down to dinner with 3 people, Matt tried to get fancy with the whole running thing because he thought that's all you did. If you were going to sit down to dinner, who would you invite?
Okay. Pink. Yeah, I would like to go with Pink. And I would invite Megan because she took me to a Pink concert one time. And then probably Cricket, because I love Cricket. And but see, then I'd have a hard time with the 4th because I'd want to just talk to Pink. I don't know. 3 is enough.
3 is plenty.
4 is
all right.
proud.
All right.
Did you do any of your training pushing kids in jogging strollers? Because I had 4 kids under the age of 7, and my wife did some marathons, and I was a runner, and we always popped the kids in the jogging stroller, and they liked it. It was either nap time, they would take a nap, but it's like they're seeing the whole. We lived near a beach back then, so it was they were seeing the beach and everything like that, and they enjoyed it. They had books on tape, they had their snacks. The one would nap, the other one would eat. Did you ever go through that phase?
But Ty, Ryan was 14. That was the weirdest thing.
Emma would fall asleep. Ryan would have his book, and then he'd listen to a book on tape. They'd have their snacks. It was perfect.
And he had his lizard named Steve with him. It was really weird.
Yeah, I know. And I definitely, I did. I had that. I loved it. But I didn't try to do it too often. Yeah. Because I wanted that time for myself too. So selfishly.
Okay.
But once I had 3 kids under 2, it just got harder and harder, so it just was easier to just go on my own.
Okay.
So, yeah, they don't make those jogging strollers for 4 kids at once.
Right. Well, I think with 1 kid, it's easy because it's just you and your child. But then when you have 2 kids, I just would rather wake up early and go and before anybody woke up,
Yep. So one of the other things you two both have in common is a love of music. You two are very much
music.
Yes, you do. And it's motivational. And every time you're doing yoga, Allison's like, I love this song. Love this song. And you ever listen to the words of this song? I'm like, no, I'm just trying not to throw up or break my face in yoga class right now. But so Allison, they allow you to do a walkout song when they announce you for the triathlon. So what is your walkout song?
So funny story. Do we still have time or do we have to end?
Yeah. Oh, we got all night.
So when I did that Lake Placid Ironman, when I was trying to qualify. If you wear a wetsuit on certain Ironman races, you can't qualify for Hawaii. So it was borderline temperature qualifier. So they said, if you wear a wetsuit, you may not be a qualifier for Hawaii. So we were walking to the start of the race, my husband and I, and Eminem came on. And it was like, Lose Yourself. And
great song.
He looked at me and he said, take off your wetsuit. And I said, nope. And he said, take off your wetsuit. I said, ain't no way I'm getting in that water with 2,500 people without a wetsuit on. And he said, you came here to qualify, like take the wetsuit off. And that song was playing while I was walking down, and I was cussing him out, taking it off and threw it at him. And I did the first loop and I was cussing him out and like, this is the stupidest thing. So I came in my age group, they were first and second place got to go. The girl who came in second place wore a wetsuit. So I got to go. So
there you go.
Nice.
Yeah. And, but that's
like
the
that.
only reason. And I actually, like, it was a factor. Like, I was like, this isn't even going to make a difference. Like, I'm not even going to be close to qualifying.
I love that. And that would probably be my walkout song for anything.
Lose Yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite inspirational book or movie?
No, I don't really. I'm not a big reader.
Yes, you are.
I'm not a big reader. No.
All right. Another question. Do you do
a little engine that could?
Okay,
yeah,
good.
but that's you. But then also it's what was it? Don't Give a Fuck.
Yeah.
That was one of your favorites.
The Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
That's
a great book.
I mean, I always think of books as like big, thick novels. But
no.
No.
Yeah. Matt reads pamphlets.
I do. I do. From Ty's doctor's office.
But seriously, do you design your music for yoga classes? Like, how does that work in a yoga class?
Yeah, I try to match it to like the it's hard because
lazy.
I'm like a big feel the energy. I don't plan out anything, which is very ironic because
I know
I plan out everything. But when I go in to teach one of my classes, I like to be really creative based on what I feel that's in the room. And generally it's the same people. So I kind of would not get, but sometimes people come in like, let's go. Sometimes people come in, they're sitting on their mat. They look like, why the hell am I here? So I try to match what I'm doing with that emotion that I feel in the room. And sometimes that's hard to have a playlist all set up because it might not match that. So I think sometimes I'm a slam dunk with the music and sometimes I'm like, that wasn't exactly where I wanted.
And then she'll skip it or play something else, but she's getting lazy, Ty. I'm not afraid to tell you that because she keeps playing these clips of 30 seconds of silence. It feels like 3 hours. You're holding a plank in silence and you're like, what the flip is going on?
Right. I follow this girl that I really like. And she was like, have you ever used a silent song? And I was like, oh, that would be so fun. So, a 30-second silent song comes on and they got to hold a plank or, a side plank or a forearm plank or, whatever. But
never Shavasana.
No.
So do you give awards out in your yoga class? Like, would you consider giving Matt most improved or like most valuable yogi, something like that? Because he needs positive reinforcement.
He does.
Or at least give him like a Twizzler.
We all try to. He's usually we only have about 5 men that come to our yoga studio. So he's usually the one that's in there and everybody usually speaks to you and says something nice about your outfits that you wear and your matching towel with your headband and your multiple towels and you're changing in the back of the room. I mean, I don't know what more you want. You're the most stylish in the yoga studio.
Could we get a yoga sponsor, Matt? You think a house calls sponsor for Matt's yoga career?
Lululemon.
That'd be great.
He wears straight up Lululemon.
Yeah. Is that what you usually wear?
I wear. Then the girls got me into aloe. So yeah, I'm.
Okay.
Oh, now you're in aloe. I can't even afford aloe, and I'm there.
I'm just learning. I'm learning. So, Allison, I love you. Ty, I used to love you until tonight. But you talked about your addictive. We have so many things in common. The addictive personality. Ginevra took me to my first yoga class probably 8 or 9 years ago. And it was her best friend, Terry Block. And it was a noon class that Allison taught. And I was working from home and I was like, I needed to get out. And they said, come to this yoga class with us. And I went, and they have never gone back. Because they both said you sweat too much, you groan too much, and you are flipping disgusting. So they're mortified by me. But like Allison said, I was like, you know what? I want to do this. I want to get good. I want to, it was motivating. And next thing you know, I'm going 3-5 times a week. And anytime Allison's teaching, I'm there. So you introduced me to this addiction, and I couldn't be happier and more grateful for that. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I love it. I love it when you're there. It makes me feel good.
Well, you make everything better, and you've developed a real community, and the things you've taught me in that yoga room that I put in my real life outside the yoga room is priceless. And so thank you for that. And then I try to teach that to Ty, and it goes nowhere because he's not as deep as you and I are.
I do think that people don't realize, and I think about this a lot, we are the instructors. We're trying to be very inspiring state. I mean, most of us are doing it to help others, but we get so much from the people that walk in the door. And so I'm constantly saying, like, you have nothing you need to do. You're already here. That's all you need to do is just show up. And I wish more people would show up for themselves, because I do think there's, I will say after COVID, we had a lot more yoga people. Our yoga classes are very packed right now from since COVID. I think something happened in COVID where other people started taking yoga and didn't feel uncomfortable doing the postures. It's a lot. There's a lot in the movements for people who aren't as naturally athletic or didn't do things. Like, I think it's intimidating because there's a lot. It was a lot for me to learn how to teach. But I love that we have a lot more students.
Yep.
But we get a lot from those people. And I think that's kind of underlooked, that, when you're not there, Matt, the class is different, the energy is different. And same with somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just me. I always tell people that are always like, I want to try yoga, but I'm afraid. You know what? No one's watching you. No one is watching you. They're watching themselves, so they don't hurt themselves or so they don't fall, or, the first couple of times I don't even know the other people that I know you're there because I'm right next to you and you're sweating on me, but that's it.
And my voice.
And your voice, it's always in my head. So yeah, I encourage everyone to get involved. Give it a shot. Allison, awesome. You're the best. Ty, any more questions or anything else you want
Allison,
to talk over
nice
me about?
To meet you. That was great. I hope you can keep Matt in line, and actually with the kind of the mental health part of yoga, keep him stable. That's good.
Yeah.
Yep. Trying to get him off the Twizzler habit while he's trying to help me learn to play golf.
Yeah.
So team effort. It is. It is. Allison, I'll see you in a couple hours.
See you in a couple hours.
7:15.
Thank you
You're
so
the best.
much, you guys. That was so fun.
That was fun.
Right.